Hello, and welcome to Story Starters. My name is Miss Kayla, the Children's Librarian at the Dubuque County Library, and each week I read the first chapter or two from a different book. So this week we have The Boy with the Butterfly Mind, a newer book by Victoria Williamson. So I'll read the first couple chapters and you can settle in at home and listen. The Boy with the Butterfly Mind. Part 1, Hanging On. Chapter 1, Ellen. The summer holidays felt like they'd ended 100 years ago. We'd only been back at school a few weeks, but already everyone hated the Friday morning math tests. Not me. I studied way too hard to get nervous answering a few easy sums, even if Miss Morrison was a dragon who handed out extra work to anyone who even sneezed too loud. I had nothing to worry about. I'd never been in trouble for anything in my whole life. Write out 24,062,017 in numbers, she roared, shattering the silence into 24,062,017 little pieces. I could almost see the fire from the dragon's breath singeing Lauren's hair as she stopped trying to copy my work and stared blankly at her own book, the numbers already forgotten. Ha, jelly brain. That's what you get for cheating and not paying attention. I bit back a grin at how easy the question was and wrote the answer neatly below the last one, making sure to use my best handwriting. The girl sitting beside me shuffled closer, and I could hear her sniffing noises getting louder. Paige Munro's bunny nose was like a warning siren. A couple more questions she couldn't answer, and she'd be crying all over her maths jotter. My hand flew across my book to cover my answers, and I leaned forward, protecting my work from the hungry eyes of the other kids, who were either too stupid to do a few easy sums or too lazy to study. Why should I share anything with them? They all hated me, no matter what I did. Can I see just this one? Paige whispered. Her voice was quivering like her bottom lip was about to fall off. I glanced over at her. Behind her big glasses, her eyes were filling with nervous tears, and her nose was streaming with the effort to hold them back. She was so scared of Miss Morrison, it was pathetic. I edged further away in my seat. I could smell the pickled onion crisps she'd had for breakfast, and her stringy brown hair was almost as greasy as her fingers. No wonder I'd nicknamed her the Slug in my head. Didn't she ever wash? Please, Ellen, if I get bad marks again, Miss Morrison will be furious. Not my problem, I hissed under my breath, shifting my gaze back to my own maths books so the dragon wouldn't catch me talking. Miss Morrison shuffled the papers on her desk, ready to read out the next question, and the whole class held their breath again. By the time the test was done, my book was filled with a whole row of neat answers, and the other kids were glaring at me like they wanted me to drop dead. I avoided their eyes as we handed in our work and took out our creative writing jotters. I could almost hear the class sighing with relief now that the test was over, and we could work on our stories instead. We were doing a history project about the Vikings, and my story was about a Scottish girl from my hometown who got kidnapped and taken away on their ship. Luckily, I'd already finished it, because there was no way I could concentrate on Viking raids and longboats right now. Everyone else had relaxed, but I was chewing my lips so hard it hurt. I kept glancing up at Miss Morrison, watching her frowning and tutting over her marking, and praying the big red crosses that she was drawing with her pen weren't being made in my book. You have to get everything right, the little voice at the back of my head whispered to me. You have to be perfect. It's the only way to win your dad back. I know, I whispered back. I'm doing my best. I must have said that last bit out loud, as Rachel nudged Lauren, pointing at me and snickering. Rachel was a mean troll who'd been picking on me for years. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction of letting her see she was getting to me. I sat up straighter to show I didn't care, slipped a sheet of paper from the back of my project folder, and started writing the next chapter of the only story that mattered to me. The princess was trapped in the dungeon, watched over by the fiery dragon. The hideous troll sat in the corner of the dark cell, sharpening its poisoned arrows, ready to attack. A foul stench of pickled onion filled the whole room, and the princess whirled round to see the hungry slugs slithering over the floor towards her. One touch of its slimy skin would be enough to kill her. The princess had to escape fast, or she'd lose her chance to rescue the king forever. Suddenly, there was a loud clattering of hooves at the bars blocking the window. Her faithful horse Athena had come to her rescue. "Good girl, Athena," the princess called, dodging out of the way of one of the troll's poisoned arrows as it whizzed past her ear. "Just one more kick and I'll be free." The hooves clattered down again and the bars gave way with a crash. The princess leapt up and grabbed hold of her horse's silky mane, just in time to avoid the slug's deadly slime. Together they rode off to rescue the king from the tower, where he was being kept prisoner by the wicked witch and her. "Ellen, did you hear me?" Miss Morrison was looking straight at me, and my heart skipped a beat before her frown changed into a smile. "Very good work," she nodded approvingly, holding up my maths book so everyone could see the gold stars she'd stuck to the page. "Perfect marks, as always." I let out a long breath and smiled back. But the smile didn't last long, and neither did the warm glow from Miss Morrison's praise. Ever since Dad left, it seemed like there was a hole inside me, where all the good feelings got lost. It was cold and dark in there, like he took a piece of me with him when he went away. Maybe if I held on tightly to the fairy tale in my head, collected enough gold stars, and was as perfect as the princess in my story, I might just have a chance to win Dad back. I sharpened my pencil, turned the paper over, and set to work. This had to be the best story ever. Chapter 2, Jamie. "Did you get that last word, Jamie?" The way Mr. Patel says it, I can tell he's had to repeat the question. I nod, even though I have no idea what the last word in the spelling test was. I lost it somewhere between listening to Ryan blowing his runny nose like he's trying to play the tuba and watching Claire nervously ripping her notebook into confetti. Mr. Patel says I distract the other kids, when it's really the other way around. I sit up straighter, ready to catch the next word when it comes my way. But this time it's the weather that has it in for me. Bullets of rain are hitting the windows so hard I swear it's like trying to take the test in the middle of a war zone, which is kind of funny since we're doing a project on World War II this year. And I've been looking up loads of stuff on the internet about different kinds of weapons. The planes were so cool. The mosquitoes were super fast, and the Spitfires were made right here in Southampton. How awesome is that? Germany had these amazing tanks called Panzers, and the Tiger tanks were better. They could accommodate, Mr. Patel says again. Accommodate. Jamie, are you writing this down? I snatch up my pen from the floor where it's rolled and try to find a free space on my test sheet to write the word. My handwriting's a bit of a mess, and it's not easy trying to squeeze the big words into such a small line. Maybe that's part of the test too. Maybe that's why I always fail. Ack, I write, then I cross it out and try ACKO. No, that's not right either. I scribble over it too hard and accidentally knock over the stack of books and pen holders I've built into a mini castle all around my desk. They go cascading onto the floor like a waterfall, and I leap after them, like one of those Olympic divers jumping off a high board. I'm so busy gathering books and pens, I barely hear the laughter of the other kids. I'm used to it. It washes over me now in waves, and I just drift along with it. Jamie, will you please sit down? Mr. Patel sounds like he's running out of patience. It's the second year in a row that I'm in his class, and I don't think he can take another 3 terms of me and my craziness. Immigrate, he snaps, snatching my test sheet from under my desk and slamming it down in front of me. Write it down. I am writing it, I mutter, fishing around in my wrecked castle wall for a pen and crossing out my last attempt in a big red scribble. Oh, damn. Wrong pen. It looks like my nose has bled all over my spelling sheet now. I had a nosebleed once. It was so bad, Mom had to take me to the A&E because it wouldn't stop. And the nurse said it was the worst case she'd ever seen in Emigrate. Mr. Patel is bellowing at me now. And the other kids have stopped smiling and are starting to look annoyed. I'm holding things up. The sooner we get this test done, the sooner we can go back to making our World War II tank models. Mine's a Tiger. I was going to do a Panzer, but no, immigrate. Write the word down, you Fruit Loop. I hold my pen tight and write E-M-Y. Then I change the Y to an I. Then I try to fit in another M. Then I run out of space. I sigh and hunt for my black pen to try to write over the mess. This test would be a whole lot easier if I'd remembered to study for it. I'm not good at remembering things. I'm not much good at anything except causing trouble. Regulate, Mr. Patel says, rolling the R like it's stuck to his teeth and his tongue's tripping over it. Wait, what was that last word? It was important. I go spelunking down the big hole in my head where all my thoughts get swallowed up and come back up, holding tight to the word I don't want to forget. Immigrate. That was it. That's what Mom and me are going to do very soon. Immigrate to America with her boyfriend Chris and leave all the bad memories behind. It'll be a fresh start there, a new life. Maybe I'll forget all the nights I lay in bed when I was younger listening to Mom and Dad yelling at each other down in the kitchen about my behavior. Maybe I'll forget the times the rage took over and made me scream at the top of my voice in frustration. Maybe I'll be able to have an operation to fix my brain so I can concentrate and think like normal people. Maybe in America, they can find a way to cure my craziness. And for the final word, alternate, Mr. Patel calls, scowling at me to make sure I heard him. I smile back at him. It's exactly the word I was thinking of. I'd almost given up hope of being anything but the boy who can't concentrate for more than half a second before his mind's fluttering off somewhere else like a butterfly. But now I'm getting a chance to give my story an alternate ending. This time, I'm going to make sure it's a happy one. Chapter 3. Ellen. You really think you're clever, don't you? Rachel was standing over me, blocking the sunlight with her big, mean face. Her hands were on her hips and her eyes were all screwed up and angry. I knew why the troll was mad. She got bad marks again. I didn't see how her being stupid was my fault, though. But I didn't say that out loud. I just gulped and shrugged and stared at my library book, hoping she'd go away. Why are you always such a stuck-up swat? Rachel snapped, trying to get my attention. Yeah, Lauren chimed in. Why are you always such a swat, Ellen? Out of the corner of my eye, I could see another group of kids stop their game of dodgeball and edge closer to my bench, eager to see if we were going to fight. They should have known by now they were wasting their time. I wasn't brave like the perfect princess in my story. I wouldn't fight back even if the troll punched me in the face. Everyone hates you, Ellen, except Miss Morrison. You're her special pet. Rachel scowled. Yeah, Lauren echoed. You and the teacher should get married and spend all your time doing maths together. The other kids all laughed. I swallowed hard and tried to concentrate on the words on the page. I could barely see them through the tears blurring my eyes, and my hands were starting to shake so badly I almost dropped my book. I kept my head down and propped my book up in my lap, so it looked like I was just ignoring them. That made Rachel even madder, and she snatched it off me and flung it across the playground. You want to be Miss Morrison's pet? There, go and fetch. Yeah, go and fetch, Ellen. Leave me alone, or I'll chop you to bits with my sword. The perfect princess yelled at them inside my head, but I wasn't brave enough to say it out loud. My fingers curled around the sharp pencil in my pocket, clutching it tightly for protection as the laughter got louder. I could feel my cheeks burning, my throat aching with the effort not to cry. Perfect princesses never cried. I knew that for sure. It was the last thing Dad told me before he moved out. I could still remember the sad look on Dad's face as he crouched down on the doorstep to hug me the night he left. I need you to be brave, Ellen, and not cry. Can you do that for me? Yes, Dad, I whispered, my throat so tight I could barely get the words out. I'll be good. I promise. That's my perfect little princess. But I wasn't perfect. If I was, then Dad would never have left. It was my fault. He was gone. Are we playing dodgeball or what? Stephen was getting bored and wanted to go back to the game. I never gave them the satisfaction of seeing me cry or losing my temper, and watching Rachel and Lauren throw insults at me wasn't as much fun as the other kids had hoped. Fine, let's play. Little Miss Boring Swat's not worth it anyway. They all walked away to finish their game, but not before Rachel kicked the ball at me so hard it stung as it slapped off my leg. Darren scooped it up and ran off with it, and I was left staring in horror at the big muddy patch on my white socks. I snatched a packet of tissues out of my pocket, feeling sick at the sight of the brown stains smeared across the pretty lace edging. I hated being dirty. Dad worked in a lab when I was little and used to joke that he was a clean freak because he knew exactly how many germs were growing in the dishes when they were left by the sink or in the dirty clothes overflowing from the laundry basket. Then he stopped laughing about it, and he and Mum started rowing about it instead. If only I'd done more to help. If only I'd cleaned the dishes instead of having dolls' tea parties, or put the laundry in the machine instead of watching cartoons, or a big fat tear was threatening to escape from the corner of my eye. I brushed it away angrily and pulled my pencil from my pocket. Checking to make sure no one was watching, I started scribbling frantically on a piece of paper I'd taken from my project folder. Bring her to me so I can bottle her tears, the troll roared. I will cast a spell so the king will forget he ever had a daughter. Just one tear will be enough to seal her fate. One tear, the troll shadow echoed. Make her cry, just one tear. Suddenly a goblin's arrow caught Athena across one snow-white leg, and she stumbled, sending the princess tumbling into the marsh. Her feet began to sink into the magical mud as the goblin army closed in. Bring her tears to me, the troll cackled. Yes, bring her tears, the shadow echoed. You'll never make me cry, never. The brave princess drew her diamond sword, and the goblins fell back, howling in fear. She raised her weapon above the cowering troll's head, and... Is this yours? A shy voice asked. My library book was placed back in my lap so suddenly I jumped, and the point of my pencil broke. I looked up. Paige Monroe was smiling at me hopefully through her thick glasses. Of course it's mine, I snapped, annoyed by the interruption. The slug had just seen the troll fling my book halfway across the playground. So who else did she think it belonged to? I shoved my notepad in my pocket again and went back to cleaning my sock. But ignoring people didn't seem to be working as well for me today. Paige kept trying, sitting down beside me and asking, Is it a good book? What's it about? Before I could stop her, she'd taken the book from me again, thumbing through it with her greasy fingers. Well, it was a library book. I had to disinfect it before putting it back on my bookshelf at home. Oh, there's a princess in it. I like princess stories. Can I borrow it? Fine. I rolled my eyes. Give it back to me at home time, though, and don't lick your fingers when you turn the page or anything manky like that, okay? Anything to get her to leave me alone. I left her sitting there and walked away towards the group of playground supervisors who were chatting by the bins, putting as much distance as I could between me and Paige. I didn't want anyone thinking we were friends. Paige's clothes weren't washed more than once a week, and she never had enough money for snacks or school trips. She was the only person in the class more unpopular than me, and if I started hanging around with her, then I might get picked last in PE instead. I wasn't desperate enough for friends to be seen dead talking to the slug. Look at the state of this place, one of the playground supervisors was saying. You'd think they held a music festival here on the weekend. Despite the sunshine, September had blown in like a tornado, and empty juice boxes and crisp packets from the overturned bins were strewn all around the playground. I couldn't do anything about my dirty sock until I got home, but this was one mess that the perfect princess could sort out. I rolled up my sleeves and got to work, borrowing a litter picker from one of the supervisors to collect bottles and wrappers and put them back in the bins. By the time the bell rang, I'd cleared half the playground, and the supervisors were smiling and saying nice things about me that I pretended not to hear. Well done, Ellen. You're such a good girl. We could do with a few more like you at this school. I grinned secretly to myself, but the happy feeling faded as soon as I lined up with the rest of the class to go back inside. I could hear them whispering about me, and even though I tried to shut their mean words out, Lauren's voice was just too loud. Yeah, she's always sucking up to the teachers. No wonder she doesn't have any friends. She was right. I didn't have any friends. It was lonely being so perfect all the time. So I will end there. That was the first 3 chapters of the book. And again, that was The Boy with the Butterfly Mind by Victoria Williamson. And we have this book at the Dubuque County Library if you'd like to check it out and find out how the story ends. So thank you for joining me, and I'll be back next week with another story starter. Bye.